What's happening, people? Welcome to this week's episode of the Indy podcast. We're joined by a very special guest this week. She's a multi-million pound property investor and coach who educates others about planning their financial future so they avoid the same issues she went through in the recession of 2008. With her experience, she's helped people gain clarity on why they make key business decisions in life and just overall for any of their businesses. Her name is Claydon. So say hi. Hi, Caroline.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
No worries. How you doing?
I'm good. I apologize for my eyes. I've just had surgery, so they might look a little crazy.
We
got 5 seconds in. I was like, is she going to say it? Is she not going to say it? I apologize. I am very candid. I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm
it's
happy
best to get in front of these things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what happened yesterday? I know we talked this morning, and I sent you that message, and you were like, so there was a cancellation or something? Or...
Yeah. No, I've been on a waiting list to get eye surgery, and because of the pandemic, it's been cancelled. I don't know how many times. So I got a last minute call up, which I just took, and then I thought, oh darn it, I'm gonna be on camera tomorrow. And like, okay, never mind. Let's just roll with it. Whatever. I don't care what people think.
Absolutely.
Because in the past we had a podcast scheduled with Caroline, but I think she missed it because she got caught up with some stuff at home. So imagine if you had to cancel twice. I'd be like, this is not destined to be.
Yeah. It's called her kids. I mean, Indy and I are not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
That deep sigh. Oh.
Yeah, that's a whole new world of learning that you are never prepared for. Yeah, you can have everything in your life completely lined up and under control, but then that is the curveball that you're just never going to be ready for.
Let me ask you a question, because I think about this from a planning point of view, Caroline, like a lot, right? And I'm like, okay, so I see my friends, and I see them that they're struggling, and they have no time. I never see them. I think, how do they get their errands done? Let alone if you're running a business and all this stuff. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, clearly we need a nanny, or we need an au pair, we need someone living in. It's all about extra hands. Maybe get a PA or a VA. Like, you're obviously a parent, you smash it in terms of your business. Those strategies, would they work? Are they just could look good on paper? Or
I think, when you evaluate your life, you have to ask yourself, well, why are you having the kids? And if it's a case of getting yourself an au pair to look after them, you're like, well, you're kind of missing out on a lot of the stuff that is all about the parenting. So I kind of always chunk things into high value tasks and low value tasks. Okay. And when it comes to kids, the high value task is obviously spending time with them. But maybe you want to be very specific about what you're doing in that time frame with them. But the picking up the picking up from school and dropping off at school, people are like, oh, you can outsource that. It's like, actually, I have my best conversations with my boys at that point, because it's not forced. It's just like everyday experience. So you can have really good quality conversations with them. I get the whole leveraging and pushing it out to other people, but you're going to miss out on a lot of the stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really hard. They're hard work. They're very hard work. But
that traffic is also horrible too, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, yeah, but if you're not rushing to get anywhere, if you're not rushing to get to a job afterwards, right? So I think this is it. A lot of parents are juggling the full-time job, the kids, the house. That is real hamster wheel, rat race stuff that is exhausting. Right. But if you can take one of those elements out of the stress triangle, then it changes the way that you cope with the other elements. So I can outsource all the house stuff, because I'm never going to get any pleasure from dusting or hoovering, but I'm going to, spend my time on my kids and the high value tasks, the tasks that are going to make me the most money in my business. And I think that's really the only way that you can manage and stay relatively sane. Yeah. Relatively sane.
Well, that is the operative word. I was kind of, I watch a lot of Downton Abbey. I don't know if you watch that, Caroline, but Indy, do you guys watch Downton? Indy doesn't watch you need to get into Downton, man. But in Downton, they have the nannies and they rarely see the kids, but they all turn out okay, very eloquent, good human beings. And I guess that's where kind of the idea came from. But you're right.
You're basing your reason on getting a nanny on a TV show. You're definitely not ready for kids, man. You're not ready for kids.
It's not any TV show. It's Downton Abbey. 100%. Downton Abbey is the show, man.
I think,
Karen,
you know,
you're not
it was
ready
a
for kids,
different,
man.
it was a different time. It was a different time. And, you know, if you were to say, take someone from that era and think about how emotionally stable and rounded they are, and take someone from, you know, I don't know,
You can't
you know,
compare them.
your childhood does definitely shape you. And I think how you interact with your parents
Right.
massively shapes your behavior and thought process as an adult.
Now, is
Yeah.
that something you've reflected on having had kids, or were you aware of that a long time ago?
It is only something that I've become aware of in the last couple of months or so, actually.
Whoa.
I've
You
never
start
really
noticing,
thought
like,
about
wait,
it.
my parents did that to me, and now I'm doing the same thing to my kids, because that's what you know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was aware of like certain little phrases, you know, that your parents
Okay.
would use on you, and then you're like, oh
Right.
my God, I've just said that to my own kids. I've become my parents. Ah,
Mm.
but I started spending some time with someone who's a complete outsider. Jazz, you know about this, and you know, he focuses a lot on my childhood, and I'm like, no, my childhood was good. Let's not talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. But actually,
Yeah.
a lot of your behaviors and things that you think about are shaped and stem from your childhood. And oof, there's some deep stuff going on there, isn't there? That
Yeah.
you can, on the surface, think actually my childhood was tippity top. My parents loved me, they provided for me, it was all great.
Right.
But
Right.
there will be elements in your experience that will just shape and mold you. And now I'm like super paranoid mom. Like, oh my God, am I fulfilling them emotionally? You know,
Oh
and all
wow! So
that
you've
stuff.
become super conscious the other way now. So you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Which, but it sounds like you've done a lot of deep rooted work there. Because
Yes.
you're right. We remember memories are subjective, aren't they? We remember what we want to remember. We repress a lot of stuff, but then we try and work out why we don't understand ourselves fully. But to do that work, you know, to have the courage to go there, and I know we'll touch on that. We'll get there later in the podcast.
Yeah.
Indy, I felt like you were gonna ask something there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you obviously don't have one of those stresses in the whole 9 to 5. So going to work and
Yeah.
rushing back, you don't rush back because I'm assuming you're running your own property business. So
Yeah.
as you guys know, I don't know anything about property. My mum tried to get me into it years ago. I just wasn't interested. I'm still not interested. So why should I invest in property? And what's the benefit of doing it if I have little to no savings?
Wow. Okay. So I guess it's more about not necessarily about why you should invest in property, but why you would want a different path, a different outcome in terms of a vehicle that creates wealth. So people go to their job basically to earn money, or it's a vocation that they're so passionate about, they don't care about what kind of money they make from it. They just can't wait to go and fulfill their purpose by going to that job. Very, very, very few
That's
people
very
fall into
rare,
that latter. Yeah, exactly. Into that latter category. So if you think about people who are going to their job to make money, there are many other ways that you can make money without actually exchanging your time for it, right? So as a human being, all you got on the planet is the air in your lungs and the time that you're here. So property is more a vehicle that can give you choices. And there's only 3 vehicles that you can choose. So there's the stock market, businesses, and property. So you don't even need to be that interested in any of them, to be honest. You just need to see it for what it is. And that is, it's just property is just a box that's going to make you money. Business is just a vehicle that's going to make you money, as is the stock market, right? So it's not a case of why property. It's more, do you want a different vehicle to the one that you're currently experiencing right now, which is either the job or you're self-employed or whatever it might be. So I guess that's the first question you need to answer is, if you're happy in your job and you can see yourself working that job for the rest of your life and all that stuff, then carry on. There's no reason to change. People change their vehicles when there is either a pain that they need to try and move away from, or there's a desire that's so strong that they must fulfill it, right?
Yeah. Push and pull.
Yeah. So I guess, Indy, if you're completely fulfilled in your life and how you earn money, then there is no reason for you to invest in property. Bottom line.
Well, it's not about the whole thing about being in fulfillment. It was more so, I've got other easily accessible options, like potentially just jumping on an app and jumping on the stock market. That's something that's a lot easier. The same thing with that in cryptocurrencies. I can set it up in minutes. The property side of thing is a long slug. Like, you have to really sit down, put some time aside, know what you're doing, etc. Don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of fuck ups in the stock market world and whatnot. That's also a real thing. So there's nothing without risk. I get that, but the whole time aspect of trying to get into property and knowing which is the right one to go for and all those things, that's, I think, is a bit of a barrier to entry. That's sort of a bit of the unknown that a lot of people my age don't really know about.
Karen, why don't you tell your bit of the story about the first 7 years of investing and how many properties you bought?
Yeah, so I thought that getting wealthy in my later life, it was going to be property. You know, I lived in an era where jumping on an app and doing cryptocurrency didn't exist. Didn't know anything about buying or investing in businesses. So I just figured, well, it's either working in a job or investing in an asset like a property. So and it was 10 years to get seven properties. And I would call them properties. I wouldn't call them deals. And there's a very big difference between buying a property and buying a deal, right? One is, you know, going to give you long-term wealth and short-term cash flow. And the other one is luck of the draw speculation. So yeah, I did the old-fashioned thing of working in my job, saving, so that I then had a deposit to then buy a property, because that was the only way I knew how to buy property. You need a deposit, you need a mortgage, and then you have a property there. Great. And that's why it took so long for me to get seven. And it was seven between me and my now husband, Nick. And we were kind of fumbling our way through it. And we thought we were doing brilliant because we were comparing ourselves to everyone else around us. So our colleagues at work and our school friends or uni friends, none of them were investing in property. So we were like, cool. I think we're doing all right here. To
give people a sense, Caroline, so 7 properties, right? So again, I know that we've done the stats, and the average property investor in the UK will buy 3, and then they'll stop and they won't do anything. With 7 properties, how much cash flow are you generating from 7 properties?
Hardly any. Because they were hardly any. Because they were properties and not really deals. I mean, if you were,
I don't follow the difference between properties and deals, like.
Okay. So
good learning point. Yeah.
So buying a property is just, dumping your money in buying a property and just putting your deposit in, and then taking the rent, right? And maybe not really paying too much attention to your return on investment or the cash flow that it's actually truly making.
Yeah.
But a deal is one where you can put your money into it, get your money back out of it relatively quickly. You get it effectively for free, and it just cash flows and accumulates in value over time. So they're very, very different species,
strategies,
if you like.
Yeah,
they're different species, and most amateurs do the property thing.
I'm getting the vibe that that's quite rare to come by, something like that.
No. But
it's not. It's a different way of searching for them and sourcing for them and analyzing them. I think people don't analyze property to differentiate between a deal and a property, if you know what I mean.
So for example, Indy, if we say you came to my house, right, and we jumped on Rightmove, okay, everyone's on Rightmove, Zoopla, and we just pick a random property and we said, this looks like a good investment, let's just buy it. But we don't look at what rent we're going to get in the area, what type of tenants we're going to have, how much would it need to refurb, what work needs doing. So we're not doing any kind of pre-work, we say, right? Mm-hmm. So what Caroline's talking about is when we make a deal, it's right, if I put this much in, so if I invest 25k in, how long until my 25k initial investment is going to come back out? Return
right, so you're forecasting essentially how long it's going to take to get something back.
That's one thing. That's one parameter. And the other one might be, well, after paying the mortgage, how much rent am I going to make? Like net take home, right? And doing all these things before you waste your time to do a viewing is what a experienced investor, like even like a little bit experienced, who's done a bit of training would do. Whereas a random person would just be like, buy any property, and then just you'll make some money on it. And what it sounds like you're doing, Caroline, is like you said, you were saving for a deposit and then going back to work, and then you'd save up another lump sum and then buy another one. But now what Caroline's saying is, indeed, there's a technique. Now I've been taught this by Caroline as well, where it's like, say, my first deal, we put in 25k, Indy, and then after 6 months, that not all the 25k, but like 22k came straight back into the bank account. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I've got that amount of money to say, well, let's go and buy another property with the same money. So it's recycling that money, then not having to wait until you save.
So how did you get that money back in 6 months?
Refinance.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So again, because I know you won't know what that term means. Very simply, we buy a property when it's say worth, I don't know, these are arbitrary numbers, say £50,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the point when we buy it, we know once we've done the work to it, it's going to be worth £80,000, £90,000. We know that with like good amounts of certainty. There's a way of working these things out. So when it is worth that in 6 months, we take another mortgage on it, right? And we pull out 75% of the value. And that 75% of the higher amount allows you to recoup the initial investment, because your first mortgage, if you're using a mortgage, was only on buying property 50k, but now it's worth like 100k. Does that make sense?
So you managed to get another. So in this example, you managed to get another mortgage for 100k by getting the place refurbished and by getting another valuation on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes,
That's it. You got it, man. But there's a
so
science
it's
to
like,
it.
it's a whole system. So you basically buy, refurbish, refinance, and repeat over and over again. So you could basically have the same pot of money and buy countless properties with it. But yeah, there's a technique, a system to it. Yeah.
But you weren't doing that. So in those 10 years, you weren't doing that.
I wasn't doing that. Right. I was just like playing at it, doing it, just buying properties as like my parents would buy it, right?
Okay.
So
and before we deep dive on the bit where you change the cat list, for our listeners listening, how many, I don't know if you know this number, like how many units, how many properties do you now own, and hotels?
Oh my God, I don't actually even know.
Like ballpark, like, so we had seven in 10 years, and now it's like...
Oh, it's excess of 40 or 50 maybe, something like that. I don't know. Like it's never about the number of the properties, right? It's about, I would happily give away my buy-to-let portfolio to do more HMOs or more hotels or more, the bigger stuff, which means you just need less properties to do more, right?
So what's the difference between a HMO and a buy-to-let and stuff like that?
So a buy-to-let is where you have a single unit and you rent it out on a single tenancy to maybe a family or to a professional couple. And then an HMO is a single unit, but you're renting out each of the rooms individually on, let's say, a student HMO.
So it's more lucrative to have that because obviously you can get more people in and out. There's less exposure. You're more likely to break even.
Money per room rather than money per house.
But it's more technical. It's way more technical to put together, and you need more capital to put an HMO together. So there's always pros and cons to every strategy. And also for the lending, lenders like to see that you have got a bit of experience under your belt before you qualify for HMO lending. So you can't just go.
Oh, you have to have like a separate criteria in order to apply for that.
They'll be like, experienced landlord. You tick the box. If you say no, this is my very first property, they'll be like, probably not going to get an HMO.
You're a risk, If they're lending you money, the lender's looking at you saying, what experience have you got? Are you a risk? Are you going to be able to come through in this? Because they want to see where the return is. Otherwise, they're going to take the asset, they're going to foreclose, take the house.
Yeah.
Right, so 7 in 10 years. And then what happened? What was the catalyst?
Well, we in 2007, we set up our own business. And it was all we knew was recruitment, right? We worked in recruitment. Right. It was international recruitment. We were getting accountants jobs. So UK and Irish trained accountants were a serious hot property all over the world, right? As auditors. Okay. So that was how we made our money, was moving these guys and finding them jobs. So we set up our own business, and the decision was literally to just do it, just the two of us, no staff, no office, just lifestyle business, travel the world, get some candidates, get them new jobs. And for a whole year, we made money. So for 2007 was great, right? 2007, if you think economically, it was a really good year. Everyone was making money, everyone was happy. And we bought a couple of properties with the profit. And then 2008 came along and nobody was recruiting. In fact, they were making people redundant and headcount freezes. And all our clients said, we don't need you at the moment. We'll let you know when things change. Oh, wow. And basically our ability to make money just stopped overnight. And I have to say, I'm embarrassed today to admit that I did not see that economic crash coming. I just didn't see it. And now I'm so attuned.
It was a number of things that were happening around there that I don't think a lot of people were aware of.
But I think when you become attuned to how a market operates and how it contrasts and expands all the time, it was inevitably about to happen. But I was completely ignorant, to be honest, about economics and the rules of money and how things worked. So, I didn't see it coming at all. And yeah,
I've been hearing for years though, ever since 2008 happened, that the bubble was going to burst, and I'm like, well, doesn't look like it. So
yeah,
anyone could sort of kind of guess that it's going to happen, but I don't think you're ever going to know until it actually really does happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, you can tell when a recession is going to happen, but how that affects the property market, nobody will know, because there's recessions and there's recessions. So 2008, 2009, 2010 property values dropped, whereas this recession that we're experiencing right now, property prices are actually going up because of demand and supply. I think they will cool towards the end of this year, but I don't think they're going to drop. And this feels like a bit of a false recession anyway, right? It's not really a recession like we've experienced before. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yes, that was it. Business overnight pretty much defunct, and started reading lots of books and like trying to find inspiration, like help, what do I do?
Okay.
And everyone around me.
Top books. I know you've been in personal development a long time. You've been on big stages, success resources. So, and I say that, I frame that to everybody listening, because there was a lot in the personal development world which is just recycled, high level, intangible advice that we read in books, and people get inspired, but they can't really do anything with them. So just one good book you'd say, like, you read this and it's got some good tangible things that can help you in your life.
Yeah, my number one choice would be The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Indy, definitely a book to read, buddy, if you haven't read it. You can have my copy, actually, if you want it.
What's it about?
Actually, don't give that copy away, because they've stopped printed it, and I gave it to someone, and finding another copy was really, really hard.
Wow.
He knows where I live. Like, he'll definitely be able to get it back.
Okay, he'll get it back. All right.
What's it about?
The premise of the book is about making easy decisions, small, easy decisions that either take you closer to your goal or further away from your goal. And you can, he breaks it down into finance, fitness, and your life. Yeah, health and fitness. So he said things like, if you're looking to get fit and lose weight, it's easy for you to set your alarm an hour earlier in the morning and get up, but it's also easy not to do that. And one of those actions will take you closer to getting fit and losing weight. And and he talks about the compound effect of decisions. So for breakfast, it's easy for you to have cereal or muesli or porridge, and it's easy for you to have a fry up. So again, one of those decisions takes you closer or further away.
Muesli's way quicker to make than a fry up. I'll take that every day. That's a 2-second job. Like time plays a big impact into that, right?
Yeah, no,
but it's a powerful book about that compound effect of actions. Yeah, it's really good.
There's one really good bit in there, which I actually read it and I actually use it on patients now. And you'll remember this, Caroline. He talks about also the problem. He talks about good habits and bad habits. Let's use a gym analogy. He says the problem with a good habit is, you don't do one gym session and have a 6-pack, right?
Yeah.
And he says the point is, because you don't get instant feedback or instant gratification of that, you then don't value that behavior. And he says, okay, so you might not go to the gym. But on the other side, he's like, let's say you drink 2 cans of Coke every day. If you drink the first 2 cans, you don't become diabetic by drinking them. But if you do that for 50 years, right, then one day you're going to become diabetic. And it's not the last can, and it's not the first can, but it's all the cans in between. And his point is, because you don't get, in the same way, like, I don't know, as a mother, you hit your child, bang, instant feedback, they know not to do it. A lot of behaviors, because we don't get that, that feedback, then we just carry on with these bad behaviors because it doesn't feel that bad. But over time, that's the key. But getting conscious about that is, a real game changer. That book.
I love that book. But it was actually Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity book that really helped me. Because I know, right? It's a good name. Because he talks about how he coped with some of his businesses failing, and here I was with a failed business, effectively. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm not in the same bracket as Richard Branson, but Let's learn from his Virgin Cola disaster or his Virgin V makeup disaster. And there was one phrase in that book that really stuck in my head, and it's still with me today, and it's expand your way out of trouble, which goes absolutely against your human instinct. When someone gets into any kind of trouble, it's like hunker down, just fight my way through it, get through this and get out of it. Where in actual fact, Richard Branson's perception in business is, okay, well, this is failing over here, so let's just throw some more money at it. Let's just throw some more money at it and more resources and more people, and let's expand our way out of this trouble. And it's like, whoa.
But how does that work? If you throw more and more money at something that's failing and you're expanding outwards, surely it just comes to a point where it doesn't work anymore.
Well, and he talks about how some of the time that hasn't worked in his favor, but a lot of the time it has. It was just that phrase.
He's also in a privileged position though. Like, he can throw money and stuff like that, but say for people like us that don't have millions in our back pocket, like that's easier. It's easier to do for some than others.
But if you look at how he set up, like, he expanded his way out of trouble with his magazine when he was a student, and he was an editor in the magazine, and it was failing disastrously. So he got more people involved in it and got it turned around. So I think that's just been his ethos. So it's not necessarily about throwing more money at it, is just the expanding. It could be more time, more resource, more effort. I don't know. But yeah, that phrase there really.
So how did you apply it when you were at that kind of point, you and Nick?
So we didn't have any clients that were actively recruiting, but we knew if we got really, really quality candidates, they would take them. So we spent money to go to an accountancy careers fair in Malaysia.
Oh wow! Okay.
In order to get best candidates. So here we were. No clients, not making any money, spending money going to a careers fair that we knew there was a good chance of getting some good candidates, but not a guarantee. That was our expanding our way out of trouble. That was absolutely against our instincts. And we actually got some pretty good candidates from that fair, but it was on that trip that I read Increase Your Financial IQ by Robert Kiyosaki. And he was talking about buying apartment blocks in the middle of Arizona with no money in the bank and things. And I thought, ooh, how's he doing that? Well, I want to learn how he's doing that, because that sounds really appealing. Because while I'm not passionate about recruitment, it was a means to make money. It wasn't my purpose. It was just like the vehicle to make the money to then buy property.
And on that point, so you mentioned it. So would you say at this point in your life, your purpose is clear? You've discovered it? No. I know you're passionate about property, and I know you love teaching, and you've taught me a lot about property. Yeah. But your purpose not clear? Is that what you said? Or
back then, absolutely, it was not clear. No, I think
now.
Oh, now. Yeah. I would say my purpose is getting clearer and clearer each month as time goes by. And I think, being a mom certainly brings that sharply into focus, because the things that you concern yourself with, it's all about the boys. It's all really about giving them the vehicles that they need to fulfill their purpose, or to be happy, right? How can I facilitate their happiness?
I know we talk about, and I know that we're going to be doing some work together, and one of the things we're going to be doing is uncovering your values. And so did you find that with the boys coming along and having kids, that do your values kind of, fall by the wayside, or do they change? Your priorities, I guess, is the other word we could use. And is it become all about them, or?
Priorities do change, but I would say that it's only since the boys are at school that the priorities have started to change. Because when they're preschool, it's like, well, they're just fitting into your life. They're like accessories. They're like handbags that just kind of go with you wherever you're going, right? But then when they start actually living their own life, like going to school and learning and, interacting with other people and having friendships and having conflicts, and that's when you're like, oh, okay, I need to invest some time in helping them now, because this is when they really need me. Whereas before it's like poo, eat, run around, sleep, pretty much.
Right. Basics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And any mother that says, as soon as I held them, I fell madly in love. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
Super honesty from Caroline.
Oh, yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
So, we've got to that point now.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a recruitment, you're not loving it, but it's a vehicle. It allows you to have capital to invest and buy property. But when did you really boom? Like, as Indy said, and our listeners have heard, multi-million pound. I've seen you in a room full of 500 people talking about it. So when did that part of your curve happen, that exponential?
Well, as Indy says, property is not easy. It does take a lot of effort. And, I think that's maybe where the property education industry gets a little bit of a beating, because there's lots of people out there saying it's dead easy, just get into it and you'll be financially free in a year or whatever.
Have you heard this, Indy? If you ever get targeted, my friend Indy, by any property ads, right? You come to me first, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want you getting caught out, man. There's a lot of people. Actually, there's one guy. I'm not going to name him, but he was on Panorama, Indy. So BBC went undercover, right? And the lady's in the room, and she said to the person selling this person's course, I don't have any money in my account. I have kids. I'm a single mom. Made up all this stuff. To which the woman replied, "So, debit card or Visa? How would you like to pay?" That was the response, right? And just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So look, if you ever want to get into property, you come to me first. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like those Forex ads I see. I don't trust them when I see them. I'm like, I
God.
don't believe it.
And the kid has not even hit puberty, driving this Ferrari. You know what I mean?
And the ad always starts with, "If you want to learn how to make money, don't skip this ad. Wait 5 seconds and I'll explain more." And I'm like, what?
Every ad, man. Every bullshit.
Man. I get those sent to me all the time. It's annoying.
Yeah. So my husband does a lot of trading on the stock market, but he's just adopted exactly the same principles of what we learned to invest in property on the stock market. Like, he's got someone who's effectively mentoring and coaching him and helping him, and he's paying money for that, because he knows if he goes solo, he is open to all sorts of chaos out there, right? But anyway,
on that point, here's a good question. So I often get asked, Caroline, Jazz, you invest a lot in mentors, right? So in the property world, I came to you guys helped me a lot. But then other people say, well, why don't you just do it yourself?
Yeah.
So in your experience, in your words, what is the value of learning from somebody rather than doing it yourself?
2 words: speed and safety. That's it. Speed and safety. Like, you get to your goal quicker and without making mistakes. I mean, you might make little mistakes. It's not going to be completely mistakeless, but the mistakes that you make are not going to impact you the same way as if you were doing it on your own.
Like if you did it on your own.
Yeah.
And like you would take out a bad mortgage or something.
Yeah. So, speed and safety. I basically have paid for my property education twice, taking 10 years doing it wrong. And I didn't even know that I was doing it wrong. And then I paid to work with someone who knew what they were doing, and kind of that accelerated me. So I got financially secure after 12 months. I needed
working with Sean, wasn't it? Was it Sean?
Yeah. Sean was the initial person that introduced me to all of this. And I needed £3,000 a month to just kind of keep the head above water and keep surviving.
That was the number.
Yeah, that was the magic number. That was the focus. That was the target. And that 12 months that took. So, I think
for our listeners, Caroline, can you explain the difference between being rich and this term that, again, Indy may have heard online, financial freedom? Again, it's thrown around. What's the difference between rich and financial freedom?
Well, what is rich? It's difficult to put a number on what rich or wealthy is, but you can for every single person individually, they have a number that defines their financial security. So whatever their expenses are on a monthly basis, take away all the bling stuff that you don't need to spend, basically pandemic life, right? You don't get holidays or going out or anything like that. Basically whatever you spend on a monthly basis, you're looking for that vehicle to replace that number. That's financial security. And then you've got choices. You can either go part-time in your job, or you can give the job up, or actually you can just keep everything the same, but you've got security now, so that if you lose your health and unable to work, then your expenses are covered. So that's a
great definition. I think it's great what you said there. because I think, and again, when I came into the property world, I felt that there was this whole thing about you need to leave your job and do property full time, right? And a lot of people are in the room with me. This was the thing, and I was like, look, man, I really like what I do, man. I'm a doctor. I still want to be doing that. And actually, now I'm at a point where the property is, it's really cool. I like doing it. It's a long term investment, but I'm still doing the medicine, got the coaching. I don't see it as a way to fully replace. And I know, you do various things as well. So I think it does, there are multiple ways to integrate property into whatever it is. But ultimately, that word we can coming back to is choice.
Yeah.
Choice and freedom. I think ultimately, well, let me ask Indy. Actually, Indy, what's your definition? This is a big question, Indy. What's your definition of success? How do you define success?
Yeah.
We ask this to each other all the time.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a formulated answer.
I know what your answer is because I've filmed your answer numerous times. I know what it is. Yeah.
He's also my videographer, Caroline, so he knows.
So I know all his typical textbook answers, right? I know them very well. So I don't really have one. More so happiness. That's mine. If I'm happy and I wake up in the morning and I'm happy and I don't feel like I've got pressure on me, then that's me done in terms of being successful. Like I think this podcast is successful because I do it every week. Not because I'm making money out of it, but just because I'm consistent with it and I enjoy it. I'm not setting the bar low here. This is genuinely how I feel. One day I know that's going to change because when you start making something out of it, you're like, oh, to go back a step, that doesn't make sense. But I need to just keep that grounding on me at all times because if I don't, I'm going to lose focus of the reason of why I do things and why things matter to me.
Yeah.
And in your current role, Indy, as a marketer, right? Because I know before, obviously you were corporate, you were in Deutsche and stuff. So if all your expenses were covered, all your bills were paid, you had no debt in this world, and you had just time, you had time to do whatever you want, and you didn't have to worry about income, would you be doing what you did right now or something else?
I think I genuinely enjoy marketing to the point where it's like, I can do that now, and it keeps me going. But if I had a choice to wake up every day and do something else, I'd love to get up and just go to the gym and focus on the next steps that I want to do in terms of a career change or to help people and give back. I'd do that. That's fine. But that's not very realistic for me in the direction I'm going in at the moment.
Okay. See, you got some good answers, man. That's some real stuff, man. Really authentic, baby. That's the word.
I learned from Karan, right?
You got to live authentically, man. This
Caroline, I do need to ask how if 2008 is to ever happen again, how would you safeguard yourself from it, or what steps would you take to prevent that from having a massive impact on you and your portfolio?
If you're listening, take some notes. This is going to be
good. Well, I would love 2008 to happen again because I would buy every piece of stock that I could get my hands on. It wouldn't affect my business in terms of income. It would affect my worth on paper, which means jack, right? My net worth of a multimillionaire that doesn't pay for my groceries at Waitrose every week. So if I lost, £500,000 on my net worth, that would not change my life. So a 2008 crash, the only thing that would be different to what it is now is the availability of money. So the availability of money now is huge. There's so much money available because of all the quantitative easing that the government's been doing over the pandemic, that I just have to pay more for the money if 2008 ever was repeated, because the availability of money was very, very scarce then. Back then. But I've got the knowledge and the resources to buy more and better than I did last 2008. So I would love that to happen. I would love that to happen, but not for everyone else, obviously.
How does quantitative easing affect your ability to invest?
So so for someone who has good debt, and there is a big difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is what a tenant effect. Good debt is something that you hold in your name, but somebody else services and erodes away for you. And then
like
bad
the
debt,
mortgage that you have and somebody else is paying for.
Rent, mortgage.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas bad debt is where you pay for your holiday on your credit card and then you have to work in your job to pay that credit card.
Yeah. Right, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you have lots and lots of good debt, and the government and the bankers, they're just printing lots of money, the value of that currency is dropping.
Yeah.
So the money's eroding away.
Nothing. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So then the value of that debt is dropping and dropping. So the politicians and the bankers are paying my debt off for me, making me wealthier on paper, but it's the exact same good that I'm buying, but I just need more currency to buy that good. So the quantitative easing is going to hurt all the savers, the ones who save for a rainy day. Their savings in the bank are worth less than what it took for them to earn it. So that's a very painful process for, say, the middle classes to go through, is a recession like that. Whereas people who have used debt and used leverage, it's just going to make them wealthier. Yeah, it's kind of like you've heard the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. It's an economic fact, just because of the way that the rules of money have changed over the last decade or so.
See, okay.
You sound like Robert Kiyosaki, man.
Do I? Oh my God. I actually don't agree with a lot of the stuff
Who?
he talks about. He's into big game hunting, which I'm dead against. So, you know.
Okay, maybe not that. So Robert Kiyosaki, Indy. Like I said, when I first got into personal development, the first book I read, Indy, I was on the way to London. I was on the train. It's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people who get into property, this is the book they start with. But there you go. There is the book. Indy, I would like. Actually, when people come to me for coaching, I give the challenge I give them is read this book in a week, and I'll give you your first your first coaching session. But the guy who writes the book, he's got like some like catchphrases, and one of the things he talks about a lot is when something bad happens, like COVID happens, as a pandemic. Remember, in all these bad times, somebody is making money.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's making PPE, making vaccines, like these companies are making a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Thing. And his thing is just about ethically. Well, I don't know if he talks about ethically, but from our point of view, ethically, what can you do in these scenarios? But yeah, the availability of funds, leverage is a really important word in our industry. And remember that term that he used to throw around, OPM? Remember that one, Caroline? Have you heard about this?
Money.
OPM? The opium? Right, so this is something you'll hear about if you go to property course.
See,
right?
OPM to me is Original Patty Man in Birmingham, the burger place. That's what OPM is to me.
OPM stands for other people's money, right? Which is basically, for example, this now happens. So I've got a certain number of properties, right? And so I'll be at work and doctors will be like, oh, Jazz, how do you do this, right? How do you like create property, and how do you create cash flow? So, but they're busy in their full-time job. They're not contracting like me, Indy. So, but they'll say I've got a lot of cash, but the bank is giving me that 1%, right? So, or 0.5%, like your savings.
Yeah, 0.1%. Yeah.
0.1%, whatever they're going to give, even in ISAs. So what we do is we say, right, well, this is what I can do. I can offer you, let's say, 10% on your money. So if you came to me today, Indy, let's say, and said, Jazz, I got 50 grand, right? It's not doing anything. It's in the bank. I want to get some growth on it, but I don't want to put it in stocks and shares, for example. Another vehicle might be you give me the 50K, I put it in a property, and like that deal I showed you before, because I know the value will go up. When I pull the money out on the second mortgage, I give you back your 10%. So 55K goes back to you. Yeah. You have your money with interest in a good amount of time. That's a 6-12 month period. And now I have an asset, a property, which I bought with your capital, OPM, other people's money. And it's just a win-win.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Rick, look, everyone, like Elon Musk didn't go into his savings account and check he had enough money to, build that rocket, right? He had an idea, a concept, and then he would put it out to venture capitalists to give him the money to then do that. They'll get a return, blah, 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 blah. Right. So these guys at the highest level are still using other people's money to scale and grow their businesses. It's all what they do. But of course, when you come down to the grassroots level, parents bring their kids up to work hard, get the best grades possible, get a good job, save for a rainy day, get yourself a mortgage and pay that mortgage off. And it's the complete opposite to what these guys are doing up at the top there. And that's why there's such a disparity.
And as a parent then, so this is interesting. So your boys are how old, Caroline?
5 and 8.
Right. So now, as a person who's come through her own journey, and I think I'm correct in saying your parents were of that philosophy which you just spoke to, right?
Yes.
But you and Nick, I know Nick is a coach as well, and you've both seen property together. So as parents, what are you instilling into them? Are they too young for this type of stuff? Do you talk about this type of stuff? Like, how do you get that balance?
Well, I think they probably are too young to understand about money. They don't understand the value of money. They understand that money gets them sweeties or, an extra value pack on an app or something, you know, whatever. But they understand that they need money for stuff that they quite like, but they don't have any idea of the value. But what I am doing is I'm massively instilling the mindset stuff that they're going to need, right? So from a very, very young age, it was always, to every problem there's a solution. To every problem there's a solution. It's like, Mom, the tomato ketchup's run out. Okay, that's the problem. What's the solution?
And you'll actually ask that. You'll actually put him in it, right?
Yeah,
my sister
absolutely.
does that, but that backfired on her once. She said to the kids, I think I got the story wrong. I'm sorry to my sister in advance, but the kids were saying, "Oh, we want to have some sweets, right? And we want the biscuits, and we know where they are." And my sister said, "So what's the solution?" And said, "Well, we can ask you." And Harvey said, "Yeah, you're not getting it. Like, it's not happening." So they let her leave the room. They got on like a step ladder, helped the other one up to try and get to it. She walks in and catches him red-handed saying, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, you asked us to find a solution. This is the solution." Right.
That's some great creativity right there, man.
Yeah, that's just kids always thinking outside the box. And she was like, "Look what I've done."
I know. So, yeah. And they'll catch you out. Like the other one is we never give up. We never give up as a family. We never give up. And then, you know, my eldest boy is a terrible eater. And there was one night that I'm like trying to force pasta in his mouth. And I'm like, "Oh, do you know what? I give up." He's like, "Mommy, we never give up." You know, so they'll like throw that shit back on your face.
He's pushing you.
Yeah, but they're clearly remembering.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Here's a question for you then. So again, the mindset, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Too young for the money stuff. How do you view the role of school in their lives and academia?
Okay, so this is a tough one because I'm basically putting them into conventional schooling, albeit I'm sending them to a private school, fee-paying school, mainly for the opportunities that will present for them. You know, they'll get to try every single sport possible, from rowing to fencing to whatever, right? Also, the people that they'll hang around with, you know, at school. But that school is conditioning them that they need to pass exams and get things right in order to do well. And that's the part I have an issue with, right? So my boy is terrified of getting something wrong. And I'm like, oh, this is a problem. Right. And then the pandemic came along and I had to homeschool. And I recognized there's no danger on this planet I'm ever homeschooling my kids. So I'm going to have to just go down the conventional education route, like enjoy all the stuff you do at school. But when you come home, I'm going to unpick the stuff I don't like. And, you know, from a very young age, we had them, you know, you don't need to do the same as everybody else. You don't need to do it. And then it's kind of backfired with my eldest. You know, he definitely doesn't conform. He definitely doesn't do what he's told. He definitely doesn't listen to the teacher. We've been in the school, I don't know how many times, with the headmaster because of his approach to school. And you know what? It was totally our fault. It was totally our fault.
But again, at the you know, the start line, the hypothesis is correct. Like in the way you're thinking about it, like, don't conform, right? We all say that, like in our world, in the PD world, personal development world. But now, so this is like living proof, but it's gone like really far the other way. So what do you do in that scenario?
You have to sprinkle it in, I guess. You can't keep drilling it. You have to somehow keep getting that little bit on top. Like, if you fail your exams, it's not the end of the world. Like, I remember when I cocked up my AS levels, I was in tears, man. And I was like, damn, I've really let everyone down. And my sister was like, it's cool, just reset it. It is what it is.
Did you feel like your world had ended at that point, Indy?
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. So I was looking around at everyone else, and everyone else was doing well, but I hadn't. And I was like, shit, what did I do wrong? What did I get wrong? So you can see why there's such a great emphasis on it, because they don't know anything different. All they know is just school, and they know just grades. Until you get in the real world, you're like, oh, I have to go and do that job each day to earn money, to pay for bills, which allows me to do things. That's bigger. And you're like, oh, you're too young to understand that. So trying to get them into like a job at an early age as possible will help them get that value going. Even if it's just like a basic retail job, it helps. But also sending kids to public and private school, like, I get it gives different opportunities. I've been to both, so I've seen the contracts.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Indy. So we both went to private schools. And what was your, so Caroline touched upon the opportunities, right? And the people we mixed with. Would you say, because one thing I think private schools definitely do, in the most part, is you do get this element of polishing, learning social etiquette, speaking skills, this type
Yeah,
of
you
stuff.
do, Karen. But then if you met me on the street, you wouldn't think that I went to private school. But here I am. I'm talking to you in a normal way like I talk to anybody. I don't change the way that I speak. So it does give you etiquette. But if I meet the Queen tomorrow, I'll probably swear at her. But also, I'd speak to her the same way how I am now. Like, I wouldn't change. Because
it's a really hot topic, a really emotive topic. In fact, the people who are really emotionally charged about private school things, particularly the parents that we speak to, are the ones that don't send their kids to private schools. And it's a bit like property education. The people who are so dead against it are the ones who haven't actually done the education, right? So they're coming from a place.
There is a balance in there, right? It's more trying to find the right balance between, are my kids mixing with people from all backgrounds, or are they just mixing with middle upper class people? Now, I was fortunate enough to know that my parents ran a business in West Bromwich, and I saw the people there who were really poor, really different, and they're just not a part of the real world. You wouldn't think you're in England if you're there. You would think you're in some really run-down neighbourhood in another part of the world, because that's what it is. And I'm like, okay, I've seen that. I've also been to a school where I've seen a kid pull up in his dad's Lamborghini. I'm like, all right, I've seen that. So I know both worlds. So I can now navigate the world because I've seen both. So always exposing people always exposing people or kids to both worlds will help them gauge better. What's the word? Better, not etiquette, but more. It's like they have a behavioral understanding.
Okay. So social IQ.
Your social IQ is a lot higher.
Parents can do that. You can send them to private schools, but you can travel the world and go to places that need a lot of help. And there's a program that at the boys' school where they go to Malawi and they're like helping this village, and I'm okay, that's it's about exposure. So I think education, while school only does a tiny fraction, the parents do so much more, right? So that's where the pressure element is on my shoulders at the moment.
Get what you mean. Caroline, have you got any properties in London?
We did, but we sold that. We had one near West Hampstead in what's it called? Kilburn. Okay. Yeah, we had a couple in there, but we sold them.
The reason I'm asking is because I'm moving to London. I'm going to try and find a property there at some point, but it's incredibly expensive. Any sort of tips or anything that I should keep an eye out on, or?
Well, if you're looking to buy a property to live in?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay. So, I think the best piece of advice I can give you is finding a really nice area, if you can put that in inverted commas, like a West Hampstead, which is very, very, very expensive, and going to the area just next to it that's not as nice and expensive, because London has a habit of having a sort of ripple effect. It kind of expands expands the nice bits further out. So Kilburn, as an example, has really come up over the years, and it used to be seen as a bit of a rundown, not so nice area, but because it's beside West Hampstead, it's really come up. So I think using that strategy is probably quite sensible. And if you can definitely stretch to a 2-bed or a 3-bed where you can maybe potentially rent out the second or third bedroom, that would definitely help you. I think that would make a good decision.
Rent out my own house. Wow, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look,
lodger.
A lodger. Yeah. Darren, you're on mute. I can't hear you. But yeah. A lodger, definitely.
Right. Yeah. I'll be a lodger. I mean, it can be arranged. I'll be there on weekends.
It's not ideal living with other people, but do you know what? If it's going to mean that you can get a better property, then it's a price worth paying. It's like a sacrifice, isn't it? Short-term sacrifice.
Yeah, because it is that there is a bubble in London for sure. Because the price just keeps on inflating more and more as the years go on. So the barrier to entry now for people on just like a basic job, like a normal middle class job, you're not going to cut it. You're going to be living in maybe a rent cycle for years to try and even get a flat of your own. So it's difficult, and I'm just thinking, like, is there any way around that could potentially speed that up without just having to save for a normal deposit and then put it straight into that and then see where you go?
I would, if I were you, I would be investing in cheaper, more affordable property up north and using the cash flow that's generating to pay for your rent in London.
Yeah, I think that seems like the most logical thing to do, especially after
But you don't like property. You're not interested in property.
No,
it's not for me. You know what? I'm actually not asking
it's
this for me. I'm
converting now.
future-proofing myself from knowing that, look, I need to know, yeah, this is how the world works. Because I'm going to have to buy property at some point.
There you go, my friend.
Everyone needs somewhere to live, right? Everyone needs somewhere to live.
And you're helping somebody. That's the way to think about it, right? And look,
sorry, I'm helping somebody.
Yeah, like you're putting a tenant in somewhere to live during lockdown, right? So people talked about.
Oh, you're on about tenants. I'm on about buying a place for myself. But yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you're helping yourself, then, man.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, it is definitely something worth thinking about, Indy. And I hope this has opened your eyes a little bit about property. But the thing I will say, I know that when I was interviewed by Caroline on her podcast, was about when you first start, property is a bit scary, right? And there are loads of terms. But honestly, when you learn like 1%, you'll know more than like everybody else who just thinks they know about property. And there's a few like principles where, same as stocks, don't get emotionally involved in the deals. And you'll find that like the first deal you do, you just want to buy a property and you might take a shit deal. But once you get that first deal out of the way, like now when I look at them, it's like if it doesn't meet this and this criteria, it's not worth it, man. Properties come every 5 minutes. Caroline talked about something earlier called a sourcing agent. So this is even like more cool now, Indy, where deals that come to me, I don't find myself. There are people who find you deals, who've done all the maths, right? Have said this is what it's going to make. Here you go. They'll take a cut, like you pay them for that deal for their time, but then it's ready to go and you're bang straight into the deal. So like it's a crazy world, man.
Sounds quite quick.
Yeah, there's always solutions. Yeah. There's always ways of doing things slicker and better, systemizing it. Yeah. Knowledge gives you power, right? I know literally nothing about crypto, right? Absolutely nothing. My husband's doing it. He's got an app. He's doing this whole thing. But, you just said, I'll just open up an app and make some money on crypto. Like, I wouldn't even know what app you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? So what I don't know about crypto, you don't know about property. But at least if you recognize you don't know it, you know that you're not going to do it until you actually understand it and get it.
You have to understand it first before you just hop into it. Without any sort of understanding. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been good, isn't it? I think we're at the point for our quick fire round, Indy. You agree?
Yeah, all good, can do. I'm not sure if you wanted to cover any of the topics, Karan.
Yes, actually there was one more topic. So, Caroline, we talked about this before, and I know you're comfortable going there because you're a strong, courageous lady. Someone who definitely inspires me. So I know recently we talked about, I think it was on Clubhouse, wasn't it? We were talking about the value of therapy, right? And we're in this age now where mental health is talked about a lot more. The taboo is less. We're talking about mindfulness. There's a lot of buzzwords out there.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's had some therapy recently, what was that like as an experience? What value have you gained so far? What is it you tell other people about therapy?
Well, it's an interesting one because, we're in Mental Health Awareness Week. And I recognized I needed therapy probably maybe February-ish time of this year. And I think the pandemic definitely brought it to a head. Right. Because basically all your liberties and freedoms were taken from you and you had more time to reflect, and there was just different pressures like homeschooling,
pressure cooker.
Yeah, homeschooling. And I thought, you know what, I am not emotionally as level or as strong as I thought that I was. And I think it's because, when you're living your life, you're busy taking actions, taking the kids to school, doing this,
you don't really get a chance to sit back and reflect.
You're kind of busy, active, going out, social life, la la la. And then that all goes and you're like, oh, right. And then it's time to kind of reflect, look at your goals, look at what you've achieved, And then I just thought, oh man, I'm kind of quite overly emotional a lot of the time. And I do think the pandemic definitely contributed towards that. But I started to think about, the last 10, 15 years of my life and the things that happened that maybe, I didn't probably deal with that emotionally the way that I probably should have. And maybe it's all kind of mounting up to a point where this is the crescendo here. I don't think there was any kind of breakdown or emotional meltdown or anything like that. I just knew that I wasn't really being myself. I didn't feel emotionally strong. And I remember one of my coaches saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I thought, if I want to give my kids what emotionally they will need, I need to sort myself out and maybe just get in touch a little with what's going on with me. So yeah, I found a therapist. I don't, I didn't want to call it counseling because he's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I got some shit to sort out, I reckon, but there's not one thing. Because I think counseling, people are like, okay, I've lost a loved one. I'm going to go to counseling to deal with that grief, right? There's a thing that I'm getting counseling
like
about.
One specific thing. Right?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't really have that one specific thing apart from...
just sort me out, like all of me.
Yeah. Being a grown-up is really shit. So yeah, I started that probably about 2.5 months ago, and I alluded to the beginning of the episode that he focused quite a lot on my childhood, and I'm like, no, dude, that was cool, that was fine. Like, let's talk about the last 10-15 years, which is kind of...
They need to go back into your childhood to figure everything out about yourself that led you to make the choices you've made today. Like, they always go down that route, because I've got friends that are therapists and stuff, and they tell me, like, these are the things you talk about. And I'm like, but if somebody has a perfectly intact childhood, why do you do it? And they said, because of those reasons. It opens up a gateway into their mind that you just don't know exists.
And it's kind of stirred up the fact that I was like, look, number one, I recognize the relationship I have with my parents, and I recognize that the childhood they gave me was awesome. Don't be giving me ammunition here where I'm going to resent them for all the shit that I've got to deal with now, right? Don't give me that. But inevitably, and this is what's kind of blown my mind, is that no matter how well your parents have done in your eyes, they have lacked in other areas. So I said to him, I'm always striving to seek approval for being recognized as the best in this or the best in that, or I'm seeking approval of this. And he's like, well, did you get that from your parents? I was like, yeah, totally. They were always proud of me. But he like navigated down this river where he pinpointed something that I was depleted with and in my childhood, and he's like, that's the reason. I'm like, what are you crazy? And it really has made me very self-aware of the language that I'm using around the boys, and this emotional cycle that you're in, and the kind of power that your parents have on you from a very, very young age. And really that power should diminish as you get older, but you can be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and your parents still have a hold on you. So yeah, it's been really enlightening. I remember the first conversation I had with them was like, look, this is how I do not want therapy to go. I don't want to sit in front of you and cry about shit. I do not want you like sitting there silent and being I was like, this is how you're going to give me therapy, by the way. This is how it's going to work. Because I'm like, I'm not the kind of person that's just going to sit here and dwell and feel sorry for myself. Like, I want strategies. I want to learn on why I dwell on stuff, why I don't get over stuff, why I don't deal with things, why I just put them in a drawer. Like, I want to understand that. And he's like, okay, you're quite assertive. And I'm like, oh yeah, that too. So yeah, it's been really good. I would recommend everyone has it. Again, you don't need to have anything necessarily that you have to talk about, because he's just kind of opening up. And I think finding the right match of therapist is very important.
Yeah, because he's come across like a really average one that doesn't vibe with you. Yeah, he's very in line with. I think his values are similar to mine. I think he's got the same kind of outlook as I have. There's a lot of that going on, which I think helps. I mean, I'm quite an open book. I'm quite happy to share and
go to those places.
Go to places that are quite comfortable, but I'll tell them like, I'm not ready to go there. Like I don't want to go there. That's too painful. And he'll be like, okay, cool. Let's talk about that another time or whatever. But yeah, it's the only positive really that's come out the pandemic, I guess, for me, is it's brought everything to a head. And I thought, crikey, here I am, midlife crisis, maybe, who knows? But I've made some actual changes in my actions and behaviors in life that I don't think I would have done if I hadn't gone down the therapy route, put it that way.
Okay, and obviously kids are quite young, so it's hard to know if they're perceiving or seeing those changes? What about your husband? Has Nick seen the change?
Yeah. I think, well, number one, he thinks the therapy's for me, and I'm like, no, therapy's for us too, right? Because
Yeah, it is because the way
Yeah.
how you act is going to impact
Yeah.
the way how he
Yeah.
has things as well. So yeah.
and I think
okay.
he's
Deep.
now, Nick is he's a strong silent type. He's a thinker. And I think naturally men aren't very emotionally they're not comfortable talking about their emotions necessarily, or they don't recognize that they even have emotions. But he's now thinking actually maybe a therapy would be good for him. But he's kind of like, well, I don't know what I would be therapizing about. That's not even a word, therapizing. But I think he's seeing the value and thinking, actually, if I'm going on an emotional journey of growth, then maybe he should too. And then, only good can come from that, right?
I like that term. Say that again. Emotional journey of growth.
Yeah. That's what my therapist was calling it.
That's really nice. Yeah, that's really uplifting.
Because, we're dealing with the things that caused emotions maybe 10 years ago. Right. And he's helping me manage or understand those emotions and manage them better than maybe I did 10 years ago, for example. So
and by understanding, let's say it's a negative emotion, right, which has been suppressed. By understanding that, how does it help you now? Well,
I guess it's still early days, but I am now recognizing that if something does cause me emotional pain, I either dwell on it until it eats me up, or I just put it in a drawer over there and I forget about it, and then I'll go to therapy about it in 15 years' time.
Right. But now going forward, what's the third option? So not the dwell, not the drawer. What's the technique?
Deal with it.
Yeah, I think this it's finding a balance. I think for him, it's all about self-care. He's like, look, you have allowed yourself to become so emotionally depleted over the last 15 years that you got nothing left. We need to start filling the cup up. But because of all of that stored up, pent up emotion, the cup has a hole in it, right? So every time I try and fill it up with some self-love, it just kind of drains out the bottom. So I'm still working on plugging the holes that have been found there. And yeah, I don't have the answers yet. I don't think it's something that you can just go, there's my strategy, cool, I'll do that. Because we're still only a couple of months in and discovering a lot of what's going on there. But things that I thought I was cool with, turns out I really wasn't cool with them. And I really can't even talk about with them without bursting into tears. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's quite a powerful response.
Which kind of things were you told to put, what types of strategies were you told to be able to fill your cup up again? Was it more like just self-care and taking time for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's about that time out stuff. I've actually been thinking maybe I've got a bit of ADD. Maybe I've
you always need to be doing something.
Yeah. I'm a busy person, and I'm really happy when I'm like sending
when
you
you're occupied and busy and everything's going. Yes. I get it.
So that whole being strict on phone down, laptop down, this is me just chilling out, even trying the meditation stuff, like all of that is a real challenge for me. So if you can imagine 40 odd years of not giving yourself any time, then the cup's well and truly empty, right? And I'm trying to get that meditation and, maybe book myself off on a retreat. I mean, Nick is very keen for me to go away on a retreat for 2 weeks. Very keen.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, I'll book it right now. I think you should be away.
He's like, I am researching for you now, honey. I'm researching for you now. Off you go.
The kids stay with Nick, or they go with you? Oh, wow. He's a
very hands-on
husband.
Yeah. But I think it's because he recognizes that
that you need it.
I'm not the same. That I'm not the same person that maybe when he met me. But big changes.
There is actually a place that comes to mind, Caroline. Offline, I'll let you know if you're interested.
Cool.
So
yeah.
The company I'm working with, in that we offer our coaching. The founder, right, where he had his kind of breakthrough moment from where all the work I do now came from, is a place, I think it's in Thailand. And there's a place where, yes, literally when you check in, your phone is put into this bag. and
Yeah.
emergencies only, and that's it. There's no electronics, and there's a whole program set up of, let's say, more tangible, practical meditation, rather than just sitting there and trying to be at one, and because it's quite hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how much meditation you try, but when you first try and meditate and you close your eyes and you think, right, I'm here, I'm meditating.
Yeah.
Why am I still thinking? Why am I still thinking about things? Like, come on, mind be still,
yeah.
mind be still. It's not that easy. It takes practice. Slight edge. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, my therapist, he's all about being in the Himalayas and going out and spending lots of time with Buddhist monks and stuff, and it's very, very cool. Yeah, so he does trips out there. So I was like, you know what? I think me and Nick will go and do a 3-week trip out there with him.
In Himalayas, you're gonna be like Bruce Wayne and Batman in the first one.
Yeah,
climbing up the mountain.
Get myself in a monastery somewhere. Yeah,
League of Shadows. Oh, it's good.
Exactly.
I've got 2 more questions that are related to property that have just come to mind. So the first property you managed to get, were you given a leg up with that, or did you just save up to get to that, or just to be able to afford the first one? Because after that, it's the compounding effect, like how you guys do with remortgaging, getting the money out and putting it in.
Yeah. So the very, very first one I did as a professional after I was educated, I used angel money. I used private money. So private person who had some savings in the bank that weren't making him much of a return. I used his savings, some credit card money. And then when refinanced and paid them back, then I was like, oh, this works. And then I had more confidence going and speaking to other people, raise money from them, and just snowballed from there. And then you also get a bit more savvy with your credit file and institutional money that you can access, like personal loans and overdrafts and all that other stuff that you can do. So that's how I did it.
Taking on like extra debts.
I know.
It's again, Indy, when you first do it, man. Like, okay, and I'll give you this real example, right? So the course that Caroline was on, okay, that she used to teach on. So me, my wife, my father-in-law were sitting in the room, Indy, okay, and then this is the point now where it's like, okay, do you want to do this properly or you don't want to do it? And so it's the pitch, right?
Yeah.
So we invest in.
You do this to people, so yeah, you know exactly how it goes.
Yeah, I do it now. I never used to do it.
Oh right, okay, back then, yeah.
Right, so this is pre me having my companies. And your heart races and you think, oh, how am I going to raise this money? Like, how am I going to do it? And that's exactly what we did. We took a personal loan. But now, Indy, look, here's the thing, man. Like the rental income that comes in, bang, that loan's paid, man. I don't even feel it, and there's still left over. So as long as you do something with the investment, good debt, I guess. Then it's fine. Otherwise, then you're gonna have to have another expense. But what I would say is, Indy, if you get into world of property. Here's the question I always ask. Here's my one bit of advice. I've been around a lot of people, not like Caroline. Caroline is like super authentic. Is when somebody says they will teach you property, asking the question, does most of your money come from teaching about property, or does your money come from doing the stuff you're teaching me about? That's the question, right?
I mean, to be honest, Karan, if I want to do this, I'll just come to you and I'll be like, hey, Karan, just show me.
Take my money. Take my money and make things
No, I'm not going to give you the money, but like, no. Sit down and show me this, like show me step by step. That's what I do. Yeah.
Okay, I will do that for you.
Okay.
Cool.
And then lastly, how do you keep on top of your massive portfolio of things without something slipping under the radar or without knowing that something's gone wrong?
Yeah, we've got a virtual assistant now. We've got an assistant that manages everything for us. That I'm embarrassed to admit this. I should admit this, but I'm going to admit it. We went for an entire year with a property empty and we didn't even know. And it was actually like, I don't even know how we were alerted to the fact it was empty. We were like, oh shit, yeah, that property. What is there any tenants in it? No? Oh shit. Okay. So that's when we were like, okay, we need someone to help us manage this. It's all getting a little bit too big now. So yeah, we've got an assistant that helps us with that. Yeah.
Darren, how do you do yours? Is yours on your own?
Nope. So the words in Caroline alluded to earlier, systems, processes, right? So you think with the end in mind. Indy, you've seen my Google Drive, okay? There's folders within folders within folders, like Inception. But everything is set up in a way. So I'll give you a real example. Like today, right? So I have a WhatsApp group with my letting agents, my builders, and various people. My property portfolio is a couple of hours away from here. But we have quarterly meetings where we'll check in. I've empowered them to take certain decisions without me, right? So they'll get contractors in, they'll get me quotes. This is the fault, this one needs doing, jazz. So today, quick phone call, right? So boiler's being serviced, right? contractors come in, this is the issue, this is what we're going to do next week. Are you happy with that? I was like, yep, give the go ahead. Bang, done, sorted. But most people do is they do the sexy stuff, right? Like they're buying the property, but they don't think about all the infrastructure around it.
Yeah.
And then when you get more than 1 or 2 properties, it becomes a job. And Caroline, the thing she told me from day one is, Jazz, you're not investing in property to have a second job. That's not the goal. It's not like our parents would do Indy, where it's like buy the property and then be the letting agent. It's not that at all, man. And I specifically make sure I buy stuff where I can't manage it because it's that far away, right? But having the systems and the processes allows you then just to sit on it, make a few key decisions, and then spend your time. But Caroline, what did she say to me? Your time should be spent finding deals. Other people's money, systems and processes the other end. Your job is to find the deals. That was the best advice I've ever received. That's how I do it.
We are high value tasks.
High value tasks, like being on this podcast. High value task on a Wednesday evening.
There we are.
Right, my favorite bit. Indy, you ready?
Yeah, go. This is all you.
So, right, yeah. So this is the quick fire round, Caroline. So you don't think about it too much. Whatever pops into your head is fine. There are no wrong answers here. But so we've got some property ones and we've got some normal ones. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you're actually really scared, aren't you? Right. So let's do the normal ones first. Right. So genie of the lamp grants you 3 wishes. What are they? Go.
Oh God. For my boys to fulfill their full potential and have a fulfilled life. So boys. To end world poverty.
Okay.
That's so cliche.
I know, man, but it's big. I know it's big. And do you know what? The third one is gonna be no more killing animals anywhere on the planet. That's a big one for me. I've got empathy fatigue about what bastards humans are to animals. I'm done with it. So that would be my third.
Okay. Favorite place in the world?
Oh man.
Scotland. That's what she's gonna say.
No. I'm gonna say the Caribbean.
Okay.
That's kind of big, but the Caribbean.
It's kind of big. Yeah, cool. Ribena or squash?
Ribena.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, can't have squash. No, Ribena. Okay. Right. Cash flow or equity?
Cash flow.
HMO or developments?
HMOs.
Leave money in and pull it all out?
Pull all out.
Fixed return or shared equity?
Fixed return.
Angel finance or do it yourself?
Angel finance.
No brainer for you, isn't it?
Come on.
Right. So that is the end to our quick fire round, and you work really quick on those. So it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If you had one message to our listeners, right? Somebody who's never got into property.
Okay.
What's the message?
Oh man, that's big again, right? I mean, well, poor Indy here. He's like, I'm not interested in property. Like, I'm thinking, okay.
I knew you were going to bring it back to me. Go on.
I was like,
what's your message
all your
to me then?
listeners are like, Indy, right. I'm like wasting my time. Do you know, forget property. Just if you were unable to earn money through a job or your self-employed business, what's your plan B? That would be my question to everyone, because honestly, you do need a plan B. By the time you need it, it's too late. So planning for the plan B now is so important. So that's it. Okay.
And look, so guys, Caroline runs her own property wealth system. It's a company that teaches people how to invest properly. There is massive amounts of accountability built into the system to make sure you succeed. So it's not bullshit. You come to a course and then you left your own devices. These guys will make sure you understand and are implementing what they teach you. How can somebody who's interested find out about that, Caroline?
Easiest way is probably going to our website, propertywealthsystem.co.uk, and all the information's on there for attending one of our taster webinars and get started that way. Or we have a YouTube channel. We also have our podcast, This Property Life podcast. So there's lots of ways to get exposure to myself and the team that are all full-time investors that just educate on the side as a little bit of fun in their spare time.
Giving back.
Yeah, exactly. Because we enjoy each other's company and we have a bit of a laugh with it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Indy, final words from you, my friend?
No, that's cool. Thank you. You changed my mind a little bit to understanding how property works. So
Just a
that was
little
helpful.
You don't understand. I've been trying to do that for years, Caroline. You've made some ground. Excellent.
It's
Thank
hard
you guys.
when it's someone that you're very close to, and
Yeah,
you're like, oh, I don't believe you. But now it's
Yeah.
someone impartial. All right, fine, I get it. I understand it now better. Let's just say that.
Good. Good. Thanks for having me, guys. That was really good fun.
Okay, cool.
Lovely.
Cheers,
Take care, guys.
See you. Bye bye.